Hi everyone! Before we dive into this week's episode, please check out our promo of the week.
It's time for an ad!
Hi folks, I'm Tyler Armentrout.
I'm Christopher Whedon.
I'm Zach Meck.
And I'm Jerry Nash.
And we're the History Boys!
And we're kicking your door down with a Bluetooth speaker and an 18-pack of beer, ready to start a party.
It's my favorite history podcast on all the internet, not just because I'm on it, but because I listen to every episode full blast in my house drives my wife up the wall.
This is the History Podcast for all you cool kids that sat in the back of the classroom.
That's right, we are a comedy history podcast, or a history comedy podcast, any which way you look at it. We are the History Boys. That is spelled B-O-I-Z for those counting. And we are found anywhere you find your podcasts.
Love you, bye.
Hi, I'm Laura.
And I'm Joe.
And this is Crime Divers.
Hello everybody, welcome to today's episode.
Hello.
So we thought we'd throw in a wee bonus episode for you this week. Because,
Why the hell not?
yeah, why not? We were off for a little longer than we said for over Christmas, so we just thought we'd throw one in. So anyway, Laura has our missing person of the week.
I do. And today's missing person is a male called Jerrion Morris. And Jerrion is spelled Jerrion. He is 25. He is from Mississippi. He has brown hair, blue eyes. It does say he has some mental issues. Obviously, I don't know what they are specifically. He may be called Jer or G. And he was last seen in October last year, so October 2021. There is a reward offered. And if you have any information or have seen him, then there's a couple of numbers to call, which are 662-822-9636 or 662-379-1800. Any information or just a share on social media would be great.
And we'll put the information in the show notes. But you know what? When you said last year, and you went, so that was 2021, I actually opened my mouth and I went, oh. Because I was going to say, no, 2020. I forgot. Yeah, last year was 2021, I know.
We're now in 2022.
Yeah, I know. I realised that.
Okay,
That's why I stopped myself from speaking.
But you still have to tell us.
Well, I had to tell you that now, because I didn't know if you'd noticed that. I kind of went,
Yeah, I did, and I was just ignoring you.
okay. Anyway, so where are we? Oh, Patreon. So thank you to our current Patreon members. And if you would like to join them over there for some bonus episodes, patreon.com/Crime Divers. So, shall we get into our bonus case?
Yes, what is the title?
The title is The Island Killer.
Ooh, so it's on an island then.
Nay shit, Sherlock.
Which island is it on then?
We're in the Channel Islands.
Oh, right, okay.
So, we're in Jersey.
Right, okay. So shall we dive into this one then?
Yep, let's dive in.
Dive in onto the island? Off the island? No?
Down in or off the island?
Just
We're not
let's dive
diving in the island, the water. We'll be diving into the water. Right, sorry. Stop laughing. People don't want to hear us laughing. Laura just started to laugh and threw her head back, and there's a wardrobe behind her, so she just hit her head off.
Yeah, thanks for that.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You alright?
Let's just dive in.
Okay, so I'm going to apologise before we start, because I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this name.
Oh, here we go.
Because he was born in Poland, so it's a Polish name, and I know some people are like, oh, why do podcasters not look up the pronunciation of stuff? I did, and I still couldn't find it.
Right.
I looked
To be
it up.
fair, I think some Polish names can be quite difficult.
Oh,
they're
they
still
are.
really weird and then sound nothing like
They
what
have
they're-
like silent letters in them, like at the
Yeah.
start and things like that. So
So I can
I looked on YouTube and couldn't find it, and I googled it as well, and I couldn't find how to pronounce this name. So I'm just going to say it how I think it's spelled, and if it's wrong, I apologise. So, Damian Zizowski was born in southern Poland in 1980. He briefly served in the army, but after that he struggled to find other work. So, in 2004, he decided to move to Jersey in Channel Islands. to build a life there. Now, Jersey is known as being picturesque and has long been known as like a haven for millions of holidaymakers. It's, you know, it's got like beautiful beaches, and you have no idea, do you?
I've never been.
Well, neither have I, but I know of it.
I mean, I've heard of Jersey, yeah.
Yeah, well, did you not know it was a picturesque place that has lots of beaches?
No, I did
Right,
not know
okay. Well, for anybody else who doesn't know that, there you go. It's really like a crime-free destination. Like, obviously not completely crime-free, but like, you know, not a lot of crime goes on. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was still a place where people still leave their doors open. You know, you would think it was a safe place. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's not with this case, but apart from this,
in
it's
general,
a safe place.
it's fairly safe.
And like people would move there like in search of a quiet life. You know, like it's known for being a safe place to bring up your children, and it looks beautiful. Mm-hmm. So understandable why Damien decided to move there. So he had a girlfriend, Isabella Cartsco, and she moved with him. So they wanted to build a new life together. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there was a strong community of over 5,000 Polish people living there. So Jersey just seemed like the perfect location to settle down because, as I said, they were Polish. So
so they'd fit in.
Yeah, so they'd fit in. So the following year, 2005, Damien and Isabella got married, and not long after, their daughter Kinga was born, and then their son Caspar was born in 2008. So by this time, the family, they were well known in the community. They had lots of friends, and they'd settled right in. They were living in a flat in the capital, St. Helier, along with Isabella's dad, Marek. So Damien was working as a foreman's assistant, and he was employed on various building sites around the island. He was a hard-working man, a loving father, supporting and providing for his family. So Isabella was described, she was a loving mother. She would she would spend most of her time taking care of the children, and she would make sure that the dinner was ready for Damien coming home from work. Like, she would bake her own bread. She would take the kids for walks, play with them in the garden. You know, their friends all said they were like a really happy couple, and it sounds like they had like a lovely family life. Like,
it does, yeah.
Yeah. However,
there's that famous however.
You knew there was going to be a however. This picture-perfect exterior was a far cry from the truth. Cracks were beginning to appear in their 6-year marriage. Damien and Isabella wanted different futures. He wanted the family to move back to Poland, and he was saving for a house there. Right. But she wanted to stay in Jersey. And as tensions grew, they decided to take a holiday in Poland in the summer of 2011, and they kind of hoped that was maybe going to bring them closer together. Just get away for a bit, spend some proper quality time together. Of course. So they returned to Jersey from their holiday on the 14th of August 2011. So they'd driven all the way from Poland, and Damien was the only driver, so he'd been driving for sort of over 23 hours. Oh, well. So they arrived in St. Helier about 8 a.m, and since it was such a lovely day, they decided to have a barbecue later on that day. So they invited Isabella's best friend Marta and her daughter Julia to join them. So Julia was, I think she was about 5. So around 12:30 that afternoon, Isabella and her dad Marek went to pick up Marta and Julia, and Damien stayed at home to look after the kids. However, when Isabella, Marek, Marta and Julia got back to the house, they realised that the 2 children, Kinga and Caspar, who were only 5 and 2, were home alone. Oh. So it was only like a few minutes later, Damien returned, but he wouldn't say where he had been. Right. And Isabella was obviously absolutely furious, and she was like yelling at him, wanting an explanation, but he just wouldn't tell her where he had been, and spoiler alert, we'll never find out.
Alright, okay.
So I don't know what that was all about, but don't leave your children in the house, even if it is just for a few minutes. I don't know how long they were away for, mind. So, at 2:58 that afternoon, a call was made to the emergency services. A witness had seen Damien chasing Isabella down the street and was attacking her with a knife.
Oh my God.
And there was this one guy, his name was Martin Maguire. He was a fireman, but he was off duty. And he was actually on his way to his daughter's house, who lived in the same block as Damien and Isabella. And he actually got a phone call from his daughter saying, look, Dad, like, something's going on, like, I think somebody's been stabbed, like, can you hurry up? So he, like, rushed over there, because he was on his way anyway, so he rushed over. By the time he got there, the emergency services were already there. So Isabella was being worked on by paramedics. I think that was just outside the house, I think.
Right.
And as Martin went into the house, he saw police officers working on somebody near to the door to the lounge. So that he said to the officers, like, do you need help? And they were like, yeah, please. So Martin, the police officer, fireman, so he said, quote, I immediately put some breaths into the casualty and noticed there was a lot of gurgling going on, and I said, I'm going to just feel for a pulse. Because they said they couldn't feel a pulse, the policeman. I couldn't trace one either. And as I did that, I looked and I noticed that there was still a knife in the casualty's back. And I was like, whoa, I know, we're going to need to move that. And they're like, no, like, we can't. A couple of thoughts went through my head. I need to remove it because I need to get him on his back. And then I'm thinking, well, if I remove it, more catastrophic bleeding, and there was enough blood there already that was obviously, it was bad. So I tried a couple more breaths, and I was unsuccessful. I felt for another pulse, and I said, guys, I think we've lost this guy. I think he may be dead, end quote. And that was Isabella's dad, Marek.
Oh, no.
So he died where he fell, having been stabbed 9 times. So Martin looked through the doorway into the lounge and he saw a baby on the floor. So he went over and checked the baby. He couldn't feel a pulse and saw there was quite a lot of blood around him. He checked over and over for a pulse, but unfortunately it was gone. That baby was 2-year-old Casper, and he had been stabbed 13 times.
13 times? Oh my God.
For a 2-year-old. Can you imagine the size of a 2-year-old? Why would you need to stab... Well, you wouldn't anyway, but
Well, no, but...
Why would you need to stab a baby 13 times?
That's awful.
Absolutely awful. So, as the emergency services attempted to secure the scene, they made even more discoveries. They searched the house and they went through to a back room and saw someone lying face down, but they moved so that they could see that they were still alive. That person was Damien, who at first looked like another victim.
Right.
They turned him over and noticed there were a lot of stab wounds. His chest was bare and there was a lot of stab wounds all over it. He was moaning and moving around a bit, and Martin noticed when he moved his arms that his wrists had been cut as well. So that's when the penny dropped that this could actually be the murderer, and he's just tried to kill himself as well. So Martin asked Damien some questions like, what was his name? Was there anyone else in the house? And he said yes. So he asked him how many people were in the house, and he said he thought there were 6 people.
Right.
So Martin said to the police, right, there's other people here, because they didn't realise, they just obviously just saw them, and you wouldn't think there was any more, would you?
No.
You know, because they didn't know the situation. So he's like, right, we need to find them. So they discovered another female, who was Marta, and 2 other children with horrific injuries. So 4 victims were taken to the hospital. So that was the 2 little girls, Kinga and Julia, and plus Isabella and her friend Marta. So it was the 2 mothers and their 2 daughters.
Girls,
So as the girls were rushed to hospital with multiple stab wounds, the only conscious person amid the devastation was 31-year-old Damien. But he was now in a critical condition, having repeatedly stabbed himself. So Martin kept talking to him to keep him conscious, and then another ambulance arrived with some equipment. So they started dressing the wounds with some big wound pads, dressed his wrists and his chest, and got him rushed to the hospital. So the attacks had happened in almost every room of the flat, and officers were now faced with one of the biggest crime scenes ever to hit the island. Because remember, this was a really quiet, basically crime-free place. So social media was in a frenzy because people who had lived by had been putting on social, like Facebook and whatnot, there's something going on, like there's been an incident, but nobody knew exactly what had happened.
No.
So it was thought that there was like a madman on the loose. So they must have been absolutely terrified because they had no idea what was going on. So, sorry. DC Karen Sykes got a call that afternoon asking if she could go into work as she may be needed as a family liaison officer. So the phone call indicated that there had been an incident involving knives and there may be children involved. So when she first got to work, she didn't realise the extent of the incident because, again, they weren't used to working with stuff like this. And when she got to the hospital, it was chaotic and it had actually been closed down, the hospital. So it was like the emergency bit, the accident bit. So there was a sign outside the door saying closed due to major incident, please consult your doctor or return in 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So obviously, this island, like, it's not used to dealing with things like that.
No, totally not.
So it was professional people in there only, and Karen was asked to assist the doctor. And when they went into the first room, they were asked to pronounce life extinct on 4 victims who had been stabbed to death. So that was the 4 girls.
Oh, no. I was
So-
thinking they were going to be alright there for a minute.
No, so the 2 mums and the two little girls. But they still didn't know who these people were. So they still had to try and identify the victims, because like none of them had any identification on them.
Right, okay.
So as family liaison officers began the task of identifying the victims, family and friends were now frantically trying to reach their loved ones, because
Yeah, of
obviously they're
course.
seeing all this on social media,
Oh, no.
and they're like, okay, my wife's gone out, like, or my,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't know who had been killed, and they didn't know they didn't even know if people had been killed or like
Oh, yeah,
what happened to them.
yeah.
They didn't really know. They just knew there was like an incident.
Yeah,
An
exactly.
incident. So one of the victims' mobiles in the hospital kept ringing and receiving messages, but I mean, I don't know how it works, but they mustn't be allowed to pick up the phone or something, because they actually, from the number that was ringing, the police went and looked up the data
Right.
to identify who that person was. So
That's surprising.
for whatever reason, I thought they would just answer the phone.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I don't know the reason, but they didn't. They had to go and look up
Alright, okay.
the data, and they managed to identify the person who was calling, and they went and spoke to that person, and maybe because they just wanted to go and speak to them in person, but they
Maybe,
could
yeah.
answer the phone, and
Yeah.
I don't know. So they went and spoke to the person to see if they had any family who were in that vicinity that day. So the person that was calling was a guy called Craig Dillahay. And he was trying to get in touch with his wife, Marta, and his daughter, Julia, because they should have been home about 6 p.m. and they hadn't arrived. So Craig already had an inkling that something wasn't right. He had been at home with his other daughter and her friend, because they'd had a sleepover
Right.
the night before. So that's why he hadn't went to the barbecue, because the kids were there. They just didn't want to
Yeah.
go. So he just stayed at home with the
Right.
with the 2 girls. So when Marta and Julia didn't arrive home when they said they would be home,
You got one.
he had called Marta, got no answer, and then Craig had went onto Facebook and he noticed a post saying that there had been an incident with fatalities at Victoria Crescent, and he started to panic because he knew that's where Marta and Julia had gone that day.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine finding out on Facebook that something had happened where your wife and daughter are?
You would be.
Because you still
panicking.
wouldn't know if something had happened to them, because it's just in that street.
Well, exactly. But then,
You know, there was flats and whatnot, so there's probably quite a few people who
No.
lived in that street.
But then if they're not answering the phone, they're not. Oh my God, yeah.
So 6 people lay dead, all attacked in the space of 15 minutes, and 1 man appeared to be the prime suspect. With life-threatening injuries inflicted on himself, the only man alive from this gruesome massacre would lie in hospital for hours before being questioned.
Right.
He was heavily sedated on that evening due to his own injuries. He had a number of stab wounds, self-inflicted, to his torso. He had a punctured and collapsed lung, so he wasn't in a good way, so obviously they couldn't
Yeah.
they couldn't question him.
Yeah, no.
So it was actually the following day when he was conscious, and the police were sure that he knew what was happening, what was, he was aware of what was going on, that he was declared a suspect.
Right.
So he remained in hospital for just over a week under police guard, and he was arrested on suspicion of the 6 murders. So when the community heard that Damien was responsible, they just couldn't believe it, because as I said before, they all thought a lot of this man. They thought he was a great husband, he was a great father, but yet he had just killed 6 people, 3 of them being children under the age of 5.
That's
Evil. That's
evil.
oh. But like, some people had seen a change in Damien prior to the murders, but of course, like, you wouldn't expect that.
No.
Damien's friends said that they started to see a change in him around sort of June, July 2011, so like the month before.
Yeah.
Or 2 months before. So they said that he'd just become very quiet, and like they could tell that something was bothering him, but he wouldn't talk about
No.
it.
So they just left him alone, I guess.
Yeah. So Damien's world, what had actually happened was Damien's world changed when his plans to build a home in Poland fell through.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, is it because she wanted to stay and he wanted to go?
Well, it wasn't just that. Around that time, around the same time as the home had fell through, Isabella told him that she'd been having an affair.
Oh.
So she said it was finished now, and
Right.
that she wouldn't be seeing that other person again.
Right.
But of course, like, Damon was devastated. Like, that doesn't matter that you're not going to see that person again. The fact is you've already done it.
Well, yeah, you betrayed my trust.
Yeah,
and you've
exactly.
cheated on me and had an affair, so I'm not going to trust you, am I?
So in July 2011, he actually attempted suicide by taking an overdose of pills, and he'd spent the night in hospital. And then following that, Damien and Isabella they decided, right, we're going to try and work on our marriage, as they both wanted to save the marriage, so they decided to try and work on it. So the holiday back to Poland soon after was part of the plan to hopefully kind of get closer and start building their marriage back up. And like Isabella's relatives seemed very happy. They liked Damien. They said he would try and help everyone. He was really polite. There was nothing about him whatsoever that concerned them. You know, there was no like,
red flags.
Yeah, there was no red flags. There was just nothing.
Sometimes it's the quiet ones, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they thought this guy was great. But there must have still been tension because obviously what he did when he got home. So it's believed that after the barbecue had finished, the 3 children were all in the front room of the flat. So Casper was sat on a chair at the dining table, and he was just playing with some wee cars and that, like, at the table. Kinga was painting, and she was quite close to Casper, and then Julia was just a couple of steps away from them. So I think Julia was painting as well. And the police also believe that at least Isabella was with the kids. So there was at least one adult, and they think that was Isabella was with the kids in that room supervising them.
Right.
Marek, Isabella's dad, he was watching TV in another room. So he was the first victim. So Damien took a knife from the knife block in the kitchen and snuck up behind Marek.
But why did I have to kill everybody? I mean, I shouldn't have had to kill anybody, but
No.
I mean, if it's just
Well, I
between
don't know.
him and his wife, all those innocent people as well, I mean...
I know, it's just ridiculous. We don't know why. So he snuck up behind Marek and started stabbing him. So I'm assuming that he went to Marek first because he's the only, he's the other male who might be able to
overpower
Yeah,
him.
exactly. So they started stabbing him, and the attack was really brutal. And Damien actually left the knife stuck in Marek's spinal cord. So this meant that Marek couldn't walk, but he managed to actually crawl into the hallway and towards the living room, but he died next to the door.
Right. Jeez.
So after Damien had attacked Marek, he attacked Casper. And as I said, he was sitting at the table playing with some toys, and he was stabbed 5 times in the chest. He remained seated, but he was like slammed onto the table with his back exposed. So then he received another 8 stab wounds to his back, and he fell to the floor where he died shortly after. That's his dad that did that.
That's awful. How do you do that?
No idea. So Kinga was just next to him, and she sustained altogether 16 stab wounds, 3 to her chest and 13 to her back. Next, he attacked Julia, and he also stabbed her 16 times to her chest and back. I mean, this is brutal. This isn't just stabbing a couple of times. This is like multiple times, over and over. And Julia, she was actually attacked twice. So she was attacked. The first time was in that room, but at some point, he's not killed her, so she's managed to get up off the floor, and she's made her way towards the hallway, and then he's attacked her again, so she fell to the floor and didn't move from there. I mean, that poor child, like, how terrified must she have been?
No, I can't even imagine.
I mean, it's obviously horrendous for all of them, but if the other ones died quite quick,
and she's got...
but she's actually not died after the first attack, so she's, like, tried to get away. So, awful. Absolutely horrendous. So after witnessing the brutality of the attacks on those closest to her, Isabella made a desperate attempt to flee for her life, so it is believed that she actually saw what was happening.
What was happening, yeah.
And can you imagine that, seeing your children? No, I don't want to imagine. I don't even want to think about it. So, police believe that Isabella was first attacked either in the living room or the hallway, and there was a bloody palm print on the wall just next to the door to the living room. She sustained 3 stab wounds to the chest that were fatal. However, for a short period of time, she was still able to move, and she ran through the flat. So she ran through the hallway to 2 bedrooms trying to escape for Damien, and then she got to the bathroom, and I don't know how but she had her dad's phone. She maybe picked that up as she was running past. She had her dad's phone, so she tried to contact the emergency services, but she actually dialed 997, which is a Polish emergency number rather than 999, obviously. So she then dropped the phone and ran out of the bathroom into the hallway. Around that time, Marta was exiting the flat, but police don't know where she was first attacked, but they do know what happened inside because her blood was found on the inside of the door. I don't know where she was actually found, but it didn't say. So Isabella, she left the flat and ran down the street screaming and shouting for help. So that's obviously the witnesses that phoned 999.
Yeah.
So Damien followed her outside, and at some point he obviously caught up with her and attacked her again, stabbing her in the back. So, sorry, were you going to say something?
That's just awful.
Oh no.
Awful.
So witnesses started shouting at Damien, to stop in the room, but he pointed his knife towards them, as sort of threatening them and saying, "Don't come any closer." So, there's obviously not much they could do.
No.
And then he walked back inside the flat after he stabbed Isabella. He walked back inside this flat, stabbing himself in the chest, and closed the door behind him.
Wow.
So all 6 victims were sent back to Poland for burial in their homeland, and mother and daughter, Marta and Julia, they were buried in the same coffin. Awful, isn't it?
That's heartbreaking. That really is.
So Damien's trial was held a year after the massacre, and by now he had undergone extensive psychiatric tests at one of the UK's top security hospitals. So police knew from one of the early pre-trial hearings that Damien accepted responsibility for the deaths by submitting a plea of manslaughter, which of course wasn't acceptable to them. So they were like, no, this was murder.
Yeah, totally.
But Damien claimed diminished responsibility,
Right.
saying that he had been hearing voices in his head on the day and revealing how the weeks prior were filled with rows with Isabella, depression and heavy drinking. But the prosecution argued very differently, claiming that Damien switched his story during his medical assessments,
Right.
casting doubts on his authenticity. So the court heard how they felt he was, in fact, very controlling, with a history of violence,
Oh, wow.
who ultimately couldn't handle the anger that he felt towards his wife for cheating on her. In short, he was a pressure cooker who one day blew.
Clearly, he did, definitely.
Yeah, so criminologist Professor David Wilson said, quote, "I'm perfectly happy to accept that he has diminished responsibility, but within the events themselves, it seems to me there was a chilling Gothic clarity about the order in which he chose his victims and by the method by which he killed his victims. There was a lot of conscious behaviour in terms of what he did, and that conscious behaviour suggests that at the moment that he committed these killings, there was a greater reasoned process that he was going through than I think was ultimately allowed for in court." End
Right.
quote. So the trial lasted for 10 days, and the verdict sent shockwaves through the people of Jersey. Damien was cleared of murder.
Really?
He admitted the killings, but his defence argued that he was suffering moderate to severe depression, causing an onset of psychotic symptoms which diminished his responsibility. So he was convicted of the lesser charge of manslaughter,
Right.
a decision that devastated the families of those killed,
Totally.
obviously. So in October 2012, Damien was sentenced to 30 years in prison with a possible chance of parole in 20 years.
Oh, wow.
He is currently serving his sentence at Full Sutton Maximum Security Prison in the UK. So that was 10 years ago. So he's only got 10 years left before he could.
Could potentially get out.
Yeah.
Wow.
He should never get out.
No way.
Like
Like
somebody who kills their entire family,
And like friends and family.
well, friends and family.
Kids.
Yeah, exactly. His own kids, because his wife cheated on him.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, of course, she shouldn't have cheated
Oh,
on
yeah,
him.
I mean,
not condoning that in the slightest. You know, she
Absolutely
shouldn't
not.
have done that. That is wrong. But, and he shouldn't have even killed her for that. You know, it
No.
should have been like, right, okay, I can't forgive you, so we'll
need
get
to split
divorced.
up. Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
split up. And that would be that. It happens. It happens every day. It happens everywhere. Like, you just don't go and kill your wife for it. And especially not your innocent little children, father-in-law,
And friends.
and friends.
I know.
Just because they were obviously just there at the
they were
time.
just, yeah, that's just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah,
That's just horrific.
it's horrific, isn't it?
That really is.
And like, I would like to know what he was doing when he left the kids home alone as well.
Yeah.
I don't understand what he was doing
Like,
because
was he getting something? Had he been?
well, he
planning
used
something?
two knives because obviously one he'd left in his father-in-law's back.
Yeah.
But they were apparently from the kitchen. They were from the kitchen block. the knife block, the knife block in the kitchen. So it wasn't like he was going out to get a weapon or anything like that. So I don't know where he was or what he was doing.
Unless it just wasn't that significant, really. Like, maybe there wasn't anything major that he did do. Or something.
I know, but I would just like to know why, though. Like, why would you leave your children for any amount of times? You don't leave your kids in the house by themselves.
Exactly. Well, that's
right. Yeah, that's and what got me as well is the brutality of it.
Oh yeah, because it's like I say, it's not just I've just stabbed you once or twice. Like, to do it 16 times or whatever it is. I mean, you've got to have some anger in you that you want to keep doing that, and especially to a child.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, like, I get he has anger, but that anger should be focused towards his wife. Not saying that he should be killing her.
No.
But why is that anger pointed anywhere else than at his wife? Like, why his children haven't done anything? His father-in-law, hasn't done anything. The friends and the daughter hasn't done anything. So I don't.
He's obviously just lost it.
Yeah, for whatever reason, and it just happened to be on that day. Because I'm assuming, obviously, I don't know, and it's just my opinion, but I'm assuming he hadn't planned it.
Yeah.
Because why would you plan to kill? As I said, like Marta and Julia, you wouldn't plan to kill them, would you? So
no, because that's surely got to be spur of the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it was spur of the moment that he done it, but I still think he should have been convicted of murder.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
And he should never be up for parole either.
No, definitely not. Doesn't deserve it in the slightest.
No, it doesn't. So there's your wee bonus for the week.
Great.
Just because we love yous.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was a horrific one. So
yes, and that's us back with a bang.
Yeah, we did. We came back with a bang, didn't we? Because that's 2 this week that have been family. Or like families being killed.
Yes.
Right, family murders. I couldn't think of the word that I was trying to say.
Yes.
So thank you for listening, and if you'd like to get in contact with us, our information will be in the show notes, and our missing person of the week, the information will be in the show notes there. In a couple of days I'll put up the missing poster. Please share it, comment it, like it, whatever. Just anything you can do to help would be fantastic.
And please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Hello, I just had to pop back on here again. We actually recorded the episode a few days ago, and I was just about to publish it when I realised I'd actually missed a bit of information. So I've just jumped back on just to let everybody know that Damien actually died in custody at HMP Full Sutton on the 31st of March 2018 at the age of 37. So he died, it says he died in a suspected suicide, and the post-mortem revealed that he had died from hanging. Okay, see you later.